There is a moment when a dress stops being a dress and becomes something else entirely, something closer to armor, a reliquary, a crown worn over the entire body. We talk endlessly about the tiaras, the necklaces, the brooches pinned to a shoulder at a state banquet. But there is another category of royal jewel that has been hiding in plain sight for centuries, stitched directly into the fabric, sewn into the bodice, embroidered into the hem. Thousands of seed pearls, cascades of crystals, diamanté worked into the shape of a lotus, a thistle, a bee, gowns so encrusted with light that they functioned, in every meaningful sense, as wearable jewellery. Today, I want to take you through 7 of the most extraordinary examples in European royal history. 7 gowns that were never merely gowns, and I promise you, by the end, you will never look at a royal dress photograph quite the same way again. Elizabeth II Coronation Gown, 1953. We begin on the 2nd of June 1953 at Westminster Abbey. And we begin here not simply because it is the most documented royal dress of the 20th century, but because it is, I think, the most deliberately constructed jewelled surface ever worn by a British monarch. Sir Norman Hartnell spent 8 months on research and design alone before a single stitch was made. The gown itself is white Duchess satin, but to call it white is almost misleading, because by the time Hartnell and the Royal School of Needlework had finished with it, the surface was barely visible beneath thousands of seed pearls, crystals and sequins worked in gold and silver thread. But here is what makes this gown genuinely extraordinary, and what separates it from every other heavily embroidered royal dress. It is a symbolic program, a deliberate, carefully negotiated map of an entire realm rendered in pearls and diamanté. The English Tudor rose, the Scottish thistle, the Welsh leek, the Irish shamrock. And then, because the young Queen had asked Hartnell to go further, the Canadian maple leaf, the Australian wattle, the New Zealand silver fern, the South African protea, the Indian lotus, the lotus of Ceylon, and the wheat, cotton and jute of Pakistan. Every Commonwealth nation present on her body at the moment she was crowned. Hartnell later wrote about the transformation of the Welsh leek, a vegetable, he noted, that presented certain aesthetic challenges. Under his hand, worked in silk and diamanté, it became what he called a vision of Cinderella charm. That phrase has always struck me as exactly right. This is what couture alchemy does. It takes the earthy and the political and the national and turns it into something that catches the light. There is one more detail I find rather touching. Hidden on the left side of the skirt, Hartnell embroidered a tiny 4-leaf shamrock, a private good luck charm placed where only the Queen would know it was there. The gown is preserved in the Royal Collection and has been exhibited at Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. The embroidered jewels, the pearls, the crystals, the diamanté, remain attached to the fabric. It is treated now as a fragile state garment, not a source of components to be reclaimed. The jewels and the dress are, at this point, inseparable, which is, I think, exactly as it should be. Queen Alexandra's Coronation Gown, 1902. Move back 51 years to the 9th of August, 1902, and to a coronation that almost didn't happen. Edward VII had been gravely ill, and the ceremony was postponed at the last moment. When it finally took place, all eyes were on Alexandra. And Alexandra, being Alexandra, had made a decision that broke with every convention. The gown was made by the Parisian house Morin-Blossier, but the embroidery, and this is the detail that stops me every time, was carried out in Delhi. Lady Curzon, the Vicereine of India, had coordinated the work, bringing Indian craftswomen into the making of a British coronation gown. The imperial relationship was literally sewn into the fabric. The result was described by observers as a blaze of golden glory. The base was cloth of gold, already extraordinary, overlaid with a white and gold net that had been hand-embroidered in Delhi over 5 months by some 40 artisans. The national emblems of Britain, the rose, the thistle, the shamrock, were worked into the net using thousands of tiny gold spangles and metallic thread. And into the high collar and parts of the bodice, actual pearls and gemstones were sewn. Not imitation, not diamanté, actual jewels integrated into the garment itself. Westminster Abbey had recently been fitted with electric lighting for the first time, and observers commented specifically on the effect. Alexandra, moving through the abbey in what they described as a blaze of golden glory, the electric light catching every spangle, every pearl, every gemstone in the collar. Alexandra had also, characteristically, overridden the conventional expectations for what a queen consort should wear. She declared that she and her ladies would wear exactly what they liked. The choice of gold rather than the traditional cream or white was a statement of a new reign, a new century, a new kind of royal woman. The gown is in the Royal Collection Trust. Conservation work before any exhibition reportedly takes more than 100 hours. The pearls and stones in the collar and embroidery have remained attached. It is treated as a complete historic ensemble, not dismantled, not altered. A monument to a moment when Indian hands made a British queen. Flowers of the Fields of France, 1957. April 1957. Queen Elizabeth II is on a state visit to Paris, and she is about to appear at the Opéra Garnier. The dress she wears that evening is titled, and Hartnell always gave his great creations titles, The Flowers of the Fields of France. It is ivory duchesse satin, and it is encrusted. The Victoria and Albert Museum, which now holds the gown, describes lavish gold and white beadwork covering the surface, faceted glass brilliants, gold beads, variously shaped pearls, mother-of-pearl and gold petals, all forming raised motifs of bees, grasses, wheat and wildflowers. The bees are the detail that fascinates me most. Rendered in gold beads and brilliants, they echo Napoleonic iconography, a deliberate, elegant diplomatic gesture from a British couturier to French history. They function visually as tiny brooches sewn into the surface in repeat. The beadwork is worked in relief, physically building up from the fabric so that the brilliants and pearls sit proud of the satin like jewellery set into cloth rather than applied to it. One of Hartnell's embroiderers later recalled working for years on the Queen's gowns in rooms with blacked-out windows to preserve secrecy, and hoping the Queen would always sit on plush chairs so the elaborate beadwork would not be crushed. There is something rather wonderful about that image. The invisible labour behind the visible splendour. The V&A notes that this was a single occasion gown made specifically for this visit to complement the French nation. It was never intended to be worn again. And yet it survives in the museum's collection, catalogue number T.264-1974, as one of the finest examples of mid-century couture diplomacy in existence. Empress Alexandra Feodorovna's Coronation Gown, 1896. We move now to Moscow, May 1896, and to the last imperial coronation in Russian history. Empress Alexandra Feodorovna, Alix of Hesse, the granddaughter of Queen Victoria, was crowned alongside Nicholas II in the Uspensky Cathedral of the Moscow Kremlin. The ceremony was remembered for its extraordinary splendor, and also, in the days that followed, for the Kodinka tragedy, a crowd crush that killed hundreds. It was an omen that history would not let the Romanovs forget. But in the cathedral, on that May morning, the Empress was a vision of silver and pearl. The coronation dress and robe were made of silver brocade or satin brocade, accounts vary slightly, and they were richly embroidered with silver thread and extensively adorned with pearls. The Moscow Kremlin museums, which preserve the ensemble, have documented that parts of the gown, including a plume-like motif, were first painted and then embroidered by hand with silver thread and mother-of-pearl beads. For one element of the ensemble alone, more than 1 kilogram of small pearls was used. 1 kilogram of pearls, stitched by hand, into a single garment. Baroness Sophie Buxhoevden, who was present at the court, later wrote of the old-world pomp of the coronation and the visual impact of the Empress's appearance in the candlelit cathedral. The gown was designed to glitter in that specific light, the warm, flickering light of hundreds of candles, and the mother-of-pearl beads would have caught it differently from the silver thread, creating a surface that moved and shifted as she moved. Unlike so many Romanov treasures that were broken up or sold after the revolution, this coronation gown survived as state property. It is preserved in the Moscow Kremlin museums and has been photographed and reproduced. The pearls appear to have remained integral to the fabric, a last, intact monument to an empire that no longer exists. Princess Elizabeth's wedding gown, 1947. The 20th of November, 1947. Britain is still in the grip of post-war austerity. Rationing defines daily life. And yet, on this morning, Princess Elizabeth walks into Westminster Abbey in a gown that is, by any measure, an act of national optimism. Norman Hartnell, again, had envisioned what he called a bridal gown of fine pearl embroidery. The inspiration was Botticelli's Primavera, and the surface of the ivory Duchesse satin is covered with roses, wheat sheaves and floral forms, all rendered in seed pearls and crystals, hand-stitched in arrangements that make the entire bodice and train glisten. The numbers are almost difficult to absorb. 10,000 seed pearls by some accounts, though other sources say simply thousands. A team of embroiderers working for weeks. One account cites 350 seamstresses working 7 weeks on the crystal and seed pearl motifs alone. The silk for the appliques was woven at Lullingstone Castle and by Warner and Sons. And then there is the detail that I find most moving about this gown. British women, in the grip of rationing, sent their own clothing coupons to the princess so that she might have more fabric. Protocol required that every coupon be returned. But the gesture, the collective wish that this young woman should have something beautiful, even in a time of scarcity, is written into the history of the dress as surely as the pearls are written into the satin. The gown is preserved in the royal collection and has been displayed at Buckingham Palace. The seed pearls and crystals are sewn into the fabric and were never intended to be reclaimed as separate pieces. They are the dress. The dress is them. Sophia Magdalena and Hedvig Elizabeth Charlotte, 1766 and 1774. We travel now to Sweden and to 2 gowns that I think deserve far more attention than they typically receive outside Scandinavian royal history circles. In 1766, Princess Sophia Magdalena of Denmark married Crown Prince Gustav of Sweden, the future Gustav III. Her court gown was made by tailor Johan Adam Strover, who billed it as «une drape d'argent robe de cour», a court gown of silver fabric. Contemporary Swedish newspapers described her wearing a dress in silver fabric with silver ornamentation. Strover himself called it the dress of all dresses. She had been betrothed to Gustav at the age of 5, and a wardrobe of state gowns had been made in advance of the marriage. This was the centerpiece. 8 years later, in 1774, Hedvig Elizabeth Charlotte of Holstein-Gottorp married Prince Carl of Sweden. Her wedding dress was made in Paris, of cloth of silver and silver lace, modelled on Marie Antoinette's own wedding dress. Commentary on her gown notes that fabrics of this kind were threaded with real silver and gold, accented with intricate laces, embroidery, and that many gowns of this type had actual jewels sewn into them. both gowns survive. Sofia Magdalena's is at the Livrustkammaren, the Royal Armoury, in Stockholm, where the museum has produced its own feature on what it calls the dress of all dresses. Some silver ornaments and ciphers were removed and melted down in the 1770s, but the shimmering dress itself remains. Hedvig Elizabeth Charlotte's cloth of silver gown has been loaned to exhibitions including the V&A in London. Taken together, these two gowns represent something remarkable: the Gustavian court's conscious effort to match Versailles in spectacle, rendered in silver and light. Under candlelight, which is the only light these dresses were ever designed to be seen in, the effect would have been extraordinary. Two young women, dressed in what were effectively wearable treasure, walking into the political futures that had been arranged for them since childhood. Princess Charlotte of Wales, 1816. And finally, we come to a gown that carries perhaps the most poignant story of all seven. The 2nd of May, 1816. Carlton House, London. Princess Charlotte of Wales, the only legitimate grandchild of George III, the heir presumptive to the British throne, marries Prince Leopold of Saxe-Coburg. She is 20 years old and the public adores her. The marriage is seen as securing the Hanoverian succession. The future seems written. Her gown was made by Mrs. Triaud of Bolton Street, London. The material was cloth of silver and silk bobbinet net, embroidered with heavy silver lame into shells and floral motifs over a rich silver tissue slip. Contemporary descriptions stress the most magnificent silver lama on net over a rich silver tissue slip with an embroidered border of shells and flowers. The train, the mantua, was of rich silver tissue, trimmed with a lame border matching the dress and fastened with a diamond ornament. Her headdress was composed of rosebuds and leaves made of diamonds. The dress cost around £10,000 at the time, approximately £575,000 in modern estimates. It was intended to showcase British wealth and manufacturing excellence, since cloth of silver and lame were labour-intensive luxury textiles. The silver lame embroidery produced a surface that viewers described as surpassing all conception in richness and brilliance. Charlotte died in childbirth the following year, 1817. She was 21. The nation went into mourning in a way that contemporaries described as unprecedented. And her death, the loss of the heir presumptive, set in motion the scramble among George III's sons to produce a legitimate heir, which ultimately led to the birth of Queen Victoria. The wedding gown survives in the Royal Ceremonial Dress Collection. It is the only royal wedding dress from the Georgian period to survive. The embroidered silver lame sections remain. A dress worn once by a young woman who had no idea it would become a relic. The last beautiful thing before everything changed. 7 gowns. 7 moments when the boundary between dress and jewel simply dissolved. What strikes me, looking at all of them together, is how much weight these women were asked to carry, literally and figuratively. The symbolic program on Elizabeth II's coronation gown. The Indian hands in Alexandra's collar. The rationing coupons sent by strangers to a young princess. The kilogram of pearls on an empress who would not survive the century. The silver dress worn once by a girl who died at 21. These weren't costumes. They were arguments, statements of power, of diplomacy, of hope, of duty, made in seed pearls and silver thread and diamanté bees. I would genuinely love to know which of these gowns moves you most. Is it the one you already knew? Or one that surprised you? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this kind of story is what you come here for, a like and a subscription means these explorations reach the people who care about them most. There are always more stories waiting.